Well, hello. Oh, that's not what I meant to click. I meant to click this. Hello. How are we doing? How are we doing today? It's Wednesday, I do believe. Although my weeks have been so crazy that I have sort of where I am at any given moment. So, twin this light a little bit. Hang on a second. Okay. Alright. What am I stuck on? I'm stuck on a cable. Man. Okay. Alright. I just took a shower. So I'm nice and clean. And we're gonna finish this, which I don't have very much left, as you can see. I only have this much left. So I have a feeling this might be a short stream. But I wanted to get this finished and get this completed. So, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. And I hope... How can I make this look better? Whatever, it's fine. It's kind of dark in here. It is what it is. I'm assuming that you guys can see me okay. Alright. Hello, Paige, Summer, and Tara. I hope you're doing well. You could always start up Cap after the book. I could. But I am also taking advantage of the quieter day that I have. So I might do really lazy things when I'm done. Okay. Let me drink a little water. All right, here we go. Picking up with this picture. And chapter 17. A reminder that sometimes the media lies to you, and I've elected to teach you this life lesson because this is the actual chapter where you find out who did it. Valentine, you're back! JJ stared at his brother from across the hole they had together created. They always come crawling back. Well, I'm sorry to say, but Trudy is the new Valentine now. I don't know if we have a spot on our treasure hunting team for you anymore, but if you leave your resume with me, I'll give you a call should we have any openings. We've got trouble. Valentine looked somber. His arms were raised slightly in surrender. Out from behind him came Deputy Park. Deputy Park, how'd you find the secret passageway? JJ asked. If you're arresting us for being down here, I'd like to formally request trial by combat. What? Trudy looked the officer up and down. I don't think he's here for that, JJ. JJ whirled to Trudy. Prove me wrong. He has his hands up and he doesn't have his pistol in his holder. JJ turned back to Deputy Park and examined him. Sure enough, Trudy was right. The deputy was unarmed. You children are idiots, a familiar voice said from behind the officer. He stepped to the side, revealing Madame Fournier. A rifle was slung behind her back, which Trudy recognized as the one hanging in the lobby days earlier. In her right hand was Deputy Park's service revolver, now trained on them. Madame Fournier, shouted JJ, what are you doing down here? Valentine sighed. She's the murderer. A blank expression formed on JJ's face as his brain disintegrated into a variety of oddly shaped puzzle pieces. Murderer? Who, me? Madame Fournier snickered. I'm just a little old hotel manager. I don't know what you're talking about. JJ managed to reassemble the puzzle pieces in a socially acceptable amount of time. You're the one who was watching Wallace, and you're the one who must have shot him when he was about to tell us everything. And the one who caught me down here and marched me back to you, added Valentine. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat if I had to, said Madame Fournier. For years I've been searching for this treasure before Wallace caught wind of it and tried to take it, and now I have it all to myself. The Christmas you do, said JJ. You know, for as dumb as you all are, I am impressed. You figured out how I killed Wallace, how I had the groundskeeper shatter the window to throw off the police. You just attributed it to the wrong suspects. I'll even give you points for finding and saving JJ. It's too bad it's come to this. Your attention to detail would make you all exceptional employees in the hotel hospitality business. Deputy Park, asked Trudy, what are you doing here? I went up to the roof to investigate the gunshots. He thought they were fireworks, Madame Fournier explained. I thought they were fireworks. But the lady got the drop on me and led me down here. I'm sorry I didn't trust you about the secret passageway earlier. So now what? Asked JJ. I assume you want the manuscript so you can go off and get the treasure for yourself? Oh, I want the manuscript all right, but you're all coming with me. People have a knack for dying when they try to get through whatever John Henry Grande built down there, so I'm going to see if you four can solve it for me. Aw, man, said JJ. I'd love to, but Valentine and I don't work together anymore. It's just me and new Valentine now. He shot a thumb over to Trudy for effect. So we're gonna just climb up this grate, back out of here, and get out of your hair? Sorry, old Valentine. Nice try, young man, said Madame Fournier. Aw, man, you gave away my name? Valentine said after JJ's words sunk in. Sorry, said JJ. Maintaining his defiance, he addressed Madame Fournier. What if we don't come with you? If you don't, then I march you all out into the snow and watch you freeze to death. It's a pretty good cover story, n'est-ce pas? 3 miscreant teenagers find a rifle and use it to deface a priceless statue. Dutiful cop chases after them. They all get lost in the heavy snow and succumb to the elements just hours before the snowplows arrive. JJ, Valentine, Trudy, and Deputy Park all grimaced. They knew that Madame Fournier headed them in a corner. I guess we have to go along then, said JJ. He looked over to his former brother, hoping he had a plan to get them out of this. Valentine was hoping the same from JJ. Who has the manuscript? Asked the hotel manager. I do. Trudy produced the pages tucked in her arm and fanned them out. Splendid, said Madame Fournier. Shall we carry on? Chapter 18. Oh, I guess I should catch up on chat. Hang on real quick. Silly, idiotic children. Yeah, they're pretty dumb. The children are always wrong. Unless this is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. How'd she get down here so fast, though? I guess she has teleportation powers. Ooh, a monster. Ooh. Okay, now. Chapter 18. The Labyrinth. Madame Fournier led the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club and their uniformed compatriot down the slope created by the collapse of the first secret passageway. Making sure to keep them at a safe distance and within sight, she jumped down into the stone room. JJ, Valentine, and Trudy looked around the room for the second time in as many days. JJ spotted the words carved into the wall by the stone door. Beware the monster at the end of the maze. That isn't Wallace's handwriting, he whispered to Trudy. What? I've seen his handwriting in his letter to Marcella. That's not his. Maybe it was written by John Henry Grande or another earlier explorer. Madame Fournier tapped the tip of her pistol against the wall behind the team. Secrets don't make friends, young adventurers. Looking around the room, she spotted the long-ago triggered spike trap, as well as the bones and tattered clothes of the victim it had claimed. Clifton, she said. So that's what's happened to you. You knew this guy? Asked Valentine. He was the one who gave Wallace the idea in the first place. I used to love him. She shook the thought from her head. I would have killed him myself if he didn't happen to do so on his own. Madame Fournier shined her flashlight upon the stone door. So how do we get past this? Weren't you already past this door before? Asked Valentine. Trudy heard digging and we barely escaped. That was the groundskeeper. He was strong enough to open the door by brute force. None of you are 200 centimeters tall, so I assume we must take the smart route. Question? Said JJ. 6'7", interjected Trudy. Madame Fournier turned to Trudy, who was reading as fast as she could through Wallace's manuscript. What does our dearly deceased author say, my darling? Trudy didn't bother to look up from her reading. I don't know yet. So much of this is research into John Henry Grande and his life, what led him to gain his wealth and inevitably renounce it. If only I had more time to... Trudy! Madame Fournier interrupted, tapping the wall behind her with the tip of her pistol again. Time is one thing we do not have. Trudy fanned through the manuscript pages until she found a diagram of the room they were in. To open the door, we have to input the right combination to affect the counterweight attached to it. JJ, go to that panel of holes on the left wall by the door. JJ followed Trudy's orders and shined his flashlight on the leftmost wall. He approached it, rubbing his palm across it to wipe away the dust and thick cobwebs. When this was complete, the wall showed several rows of holes, each about the size of a finger. There should be 4 rows and 10 columns on the panel, said Trudy. JJ confirmed her notes. So what do we do with this? I'm gonna need you to stick your fingers in the holes of the corresponding numbers for the year of John Henry Grande's birth, 1876. JJ raised his hand to the holes, then stopped and asked Trudy, "What happens if I get the wrong hole?" Trudy turned the page and gulped. "It says here that there is a mechanism behind the wall that, chops your finger off." JJ turned back to the panel, raised his finger up, then spun around to address the group. "You know, I'm gonna use my one veto to excuse myself from this puzzle and instead nominate Madame Fournier for the hole puncher job." Madame Fournier snorted. "Keep dreaming, young man." "The once daily veto is a sacred institution," JJ protested. "But fine, have it your way. In that case, I nominate Deputy Park for the hole puncher gig." "Hey!" "Come on, rookie, how many fingers do you really need to arrest people?" "JJ," said Madame Fournier, growing impatient, "put in the code." JJ took a deep breath and readdressed the panel. Okay, so these 4 columns represent the year, and the 10 rows represent the 10 possible digits, starting from 0 at the top and then counting up to 9, replied Trudy. "All right," JJ said. 1876. That should be easy. He counted down the column in the first position and raised his finger, perspiration forming on his forehead. Slowly, his finger traveled toward the hole, inching closer as JJ worked up the nerve to commit. "Are you sure 1876 isn't some sort of cryptic clue we have to decipher?" JJ asked. "Wallace is known for that sort of stuff, you know." "Oh, my stars," Madame Fournier growled. "Put your finger in the hole or I'll shoot it off for you." Fine, I'll do it." JJ took a deep breath and raised his finger toward the hole corresponding to 1. Closing his eyes and bracing for pain, he pushed his finger into the hole. His fingertip felt a button and he heard an audible click. Pulling his finger out, he was happy to see it remained in one piece. "All right, that's 1. He moved his finger to the 8 position on the second column. Holding his breath, closing his eyes, and bracing for pain, he inserted his finger. Another click. JJ let out another sigh of relief. Halfway there. He raised his finger, positioned it at the 7 hole, held his breath, shut his eyes, braced for pain, and inserted his finger. Another click, another sigh of relief. "All right, everybody, last one," said JJ mostly to himself. He thought of all the good times he and his 10 digits had had over the years, the things he was able to steal, the obscene gestures he could make, all of that. He would truly miss them if he were to lose one in a freak mystery-solving accident. Having properly reminisced about his fingers, he went for it, placing his index finger into the hole corresponding to 6. JJ let out an ear-shattering howl, yanked his finger back, and hunched over in pain. Valentine rushed to his former brother's aid. Madame Fournier and Deputy Park stood in place in shocked silence. Trudy read and reread the manuscript to find what she had gotten wrong. "JJ, what happened?" asked Valentine. JJ's shrieks of pain turned into laughter. He held up his hand, all 5 fingers still in place. "Come on, guys, I'm just trying to lighten the mood," he said to the rest of the group. "It's bad enough we're stuck down here with a homicidal hotel manager. Try and live a little." Deputy Park groaned. Valentine punched JJ on the shoulder. It was not a playful punch. Not cool. Something began creaking in the room. They turned to see the stone door slowly rising upward. "Let's go," said Madame Fournier, ushering them into the next room. Valentine punched JJ on the shoulder once more before walking to the next room under the watchful eye of Madame Fournier, her pistol and the intimidating rifle slung across her back. The group filed into the next room. Madame Fournier stood in the doorway and had her 4 captive party members stand in front of her to prevent their escape.
Hot dang, if that don't beat all. I've read every single book that gal's ever written.
Bookstream.
"All right, Trudy," said the hotelier. "What's next?" Trudy flipped through more pages of the manuscript as she walked toward the center of the room. "This is a pressure plate puzzle. It was too dark, and I didn't know what I was looking for the last time I was in here. But there should be 4 different plates," she referred to Wallace's writing again, "in each corner of the room." She walked to the end of the huge room toward the edge of where their flashlights could reach. Shining her light on the ground in the corner of the room, she spotted a square carved stone panel inset within the floor. Leaning over to brush it off, she revealed an image. "A mountain," she said. Shining her flashlight to the right of it, she revealed a hole about 3 feet deep next to the pressure panel. This must have been where the groundskeeper was digging. He had the right idea. I think he was trying to dig beside the panel to find the mechanism beneath it in hopes of bypassing the puzzle altogether. That's pretty smart, said JJ. He always struck me more as the ham-fisted, hit-you-with-a-shovel type. Maybe I read him wrong. Trudy walked to another corner of the room where she uncovered another panel. This one's supposed to represent a gold coin, meaning this one, she said, walking to the next corner of the room and brushing off the dusty pressure plate on the floor, should be a skull. Walking down to the last corner, she revealed the final pressure plate, a stone with the image of the chateau carved into it. Okay, now we just need to hit them in the order in which John Henry Grande lived in these moments in his life. JJ, go to the mountain. Valentine, go to the chateau. Deputy Park, go to the skull, and I'll take the gold coin. Each person did as they were told and walked to their corresponding pressure plate. Madame Fournier remained standing by the door, barring anyone from escape. Everyone get on your hands and knees in front of your pressure plate, Trudy instructed. Don't press it yet. On 3, JJ, you're going to hit the mountain, then Valentine, you're going to hit the chateau, then Deputy Park, you're going to hit the skull that represents his death, then I'm going to hit the gold coin, which the manuscript says represents the treasure he left us. That all make sense, everybody? Makes sense, said Valentine, although it didn't 100% make sense to him. If this was a pressure plate puzzle, it could conceivably be solved by one person walking from one plate to the next. So why was she having everyone get down on their hands and knees to press theirs? Still, he trusted Trudy wouldn't lead them astray, so he kept his mouth shut. Trudy got on her hands and knees in front of her pressure plate. All right, everybody, on 3. 1, 2... Wait! Madame Fournier screeched. Everyone meet by the door. Trudy cursed under her breath. She got up reluctantly and walked to meet the rest of the group where the hotelier had ordered them to. Very clever, Trudy. You almost got me. The hotelier had her pistol pointed directly at the former front desk receptionist. Until I started wondering why you needed everyone on their hands and knees. Then I realized. She pointed her flashlight at the walls of the cavernous room. All along them were small holes dotting the walls at chest height. You were going to enter the combination wrong, which would have fired what I assume are arrows into me. Poison-tipped arrows, Trudy expounded. Mon ami, everyone knows John Henry Grande amassed his fortune as a mountaineer before he built the chateau, so naturally the solution to the puzzle would be mountain, coin, chateau, skull. Trudy looked away, dejected. Follow me. Madame Fournier beckoned them with her gun as she walked to the first pressure point. No crouching down, please. She stepped on the first plate and it depressed into the ground with a clicking noise. She dragged the group along to the gold coin inscribed plate and stepped on it without much fanfare. JJ reflexively winced to brace for any arrows that might fly into him. Luckily, Fournier's choice seemed to be the correct one. She went to the plate inscribed with the chateau, stepped on it, and it clicked without incident. And now finally onto the last one. She stepped on the pressure plate with the skull inscribed on it. As soon as she depressed it all the way down, all 4 pressure plates began clicking, raising up to their original positions. As they rose, the team heard a rumbling at the end of the room. A door appeared. First as cracks in the wall, and then as the stone gave way and swung upward, a gaping hole that revealed steps leading downward. To the next room? Suggested Madame Fournier. Everyone turned to make their way down the steps. One moment, Trudy. Trudy turned to face Madame Fournier, who held the pistol under her chin. No more tricks, darling. Do you understand? Trudy clenched her teeth. She hated being beat. I understand. Marvelous, said Madame Fournier. Now, let's go catch up with the group. We don't want to get lost, do we? Trudy and the hotel manager rejoined JJ, Valentine, and Deputy Park as they traversed down a spiraling staircase, which led out into a naturally formed open chasm. The stone walls jutting out stood in stark contrast to the carved-out room they had just exited. What's that sound? Asked JJ. I guess it's an underground river. Melting snow must run off into it, said said Trudy. Wow, it's remarkable that this place has held up to the elements for all these years. Then the ground gave way. JJ, Valentine, Deputy Park, and Trudy tumbled downward in a shower of dust and rubble. Bouncing off the side of the chasm, JJ grabbed onto a tree root protruding out of cracks in the rock. He saw Valentine had managed to do the same just above them. Trudy and Deputy Park were lucky. She managed to grab onto the edge of the floor as it crumbled under her, leaving her only a short pull back to safety. She gave Deputy Park a hand up, both of them rolling over the edge and to safety. See, this is why I brought you all along, said Madame Fournier from the remains of the platform. She had stayed upright and untumbled by remaining at the back of the group. Better you all than me, am I correct? Please stop talking, JJ shouted from down the chasm. We don't like you. Trudy leaned back over the edge, seeing him and Valentine hanging on for dear life. Guys, you okay? Valentine gripped whatever roots and soil he could, his dirt-encrusted fingers embedded deep within the soft soil surrounding the rock. He summoned the courage to look up at Trudy. Never better, he said. The sound of rushing water was much louder now. JJ looked down to see white peaks rushing past him, just barely visible in the darkness. Old Val, we got a problem, he said. Death drop below. Valentine summoned more courage to look below him into a craggy and sharp and wet void of darkness. He gulped. It would appear as if the soil has eroded over years thanks to the river, said Madame Fournier. I'd hurry out of there if I were you. There's no telling where an underground river would spit you out, but it's a guarantee that wherever you ended up, you'd be dead. Excuse me. JJ looked up to Valentine. You gotta climb, dude. Valentine's handhold on the bundle of roots he'd been clinging to was slipping. He gripped tighter and tried to feel around with his legs for a foothold. I'm kinda stuck here, but it is a good suggestion. JJ sighed. Fine, then I'm coming up. He grabbed hold of Valentine's leg and pulled himself upward. Just hang in there, kitten. Valentine didn't know how to process this. What are you doing? Just hang in there. If you let go, we both die. Valentine did not have many choices here. He readjusted his grip, feeling tree roots snap as the weight of JJ climbing up his torso added to the load. JJ made it up above Valentine with great discomfort, only to Valentine. He found a rock outcropping he could use as a hold and placed his foot onto his former younger brother's shoulder. Valentine's muscles were cramping. The shoe digging into his shoulder did not help. He knew he didn't have long. Looking to his left, JJ saw under the floor of the hallway just in time to spot a rusted circular saw break away from the ground and fall into the river below with a faint splash. A menacing swinging axe with a rotten wooden handle followed shortly after it. Trudy, what are sharp killing objects doing down here? Flipping through the pages of the manuscript, Trudy spotted the page of the current puzzle. It was supposed to be a challenge of skill and agility, she called down. We were supposed to be running through a gauntlet. JJ strained to keep himself attached to the chasm wall. What's the connection to John Henry Grand's life here? Was his heart broken once by woodshop teacher? Just climb back up! Deputy Park leaned over the edge and extended a hand downward. JJ was close to the top, just out of reach of the deputy. Hold tight, old Valentine. What? Valentine asked right before JJ placed his shoe over his face. I don't like this, said Valentine in what could be considered an understatement. Just need a little more leverage. JJ used the extra few inches to jump up and grab Deputy Park's wrist. The force of the push severed the remaining tree roots that held Valentine in place. He felt himself slipping as he tried to dive his hands back into the soil. JJ, I'm falling! Grab my leg, you dingus! Valentine launched himself upward with the last burst of his strength, catching hold of JJ's ankle around his pants cuff. Trudy jumped in to aid the deputy, grabbing JJ's other wrist. They worked in tandem and pulled with all their might. First, JJ appeared. He hooked his arm onto the safety of the platform and within moments rested his torso against the edge. He was close enough to the top where Valentine scrambled up next to him and grabbed hold of the floor. One final heave brought them to safety. Both of them rolled onto their backs, gasping to catch their breaths. JJ looked over at Deputy Park, the man who had helped save his life. Mention this to no one. He then glanced at Valentine. Thanks for letting me use your face. Valentine got up, still huffing, and jabbed a finger at JJ. Stop kidding around. I don't even want to be down here, and now this is probably my last day on Earth. If we ever make it out alive, I'll be happy to never see you again for the rest of my life. JJ was taken aback. Geez, old Val, lighten up. Valentine whirled around and stomped toward the next room over the edges of the missing hallway to avoid falling in again. The other four followed behind him, Madame Fournier bringing up the rear. Traversing the hallway into the next room, Trudy read at a furious pace. The group stepped into a tight square room with a ceiling mere inches above their heads. Trudy looked up and her eyes widened. Valentine, watch out! Valentine turned his head to address Trudy but felt his leg snag on something. Looking down, he saw a silver string just after it had been broken by his step. A tripwire! The walls around the team began trembling. A heavy stone door fell into place, trapping them in the room. Then silence. What's happening? Asked Deputy Park. Trudy turned the page of her manuscript. She sighed deeply. Bad stuff. They heard a crackling sound coming from the ceiling, and grains of sand began spilling out of the cracks above them. Slowly at first, but within moments a deluge of sand began pouring on the floor of the room. Before long, sand had risen up to their ankles. They were trapped. This room is filling with sand, Trudy announced needlessly. We don't have long. What kind of puzzle is this? JJ shrieked. This isn't a puzzle, Valentine said grimly. This is punishment. He immediately began examining every piece of wall in the small room, every crack, every stone block. Try to find a way out? Trudy ferociously examined the pages of the manuscript. Both she and Madame Fournier were up to their knees in sand. How do we escape this, Trudy? I don't know! Wallace's manuscript had everything to solve the puzzles, but it doesn't say what to do if you fell for the trap. Fournier aimed the pistol at Trudy and cocked back the hammer. You're a smart girl. Figure it out. Trudy gulped. The sand was at her waist now. JJ and Valentine were clawing at the walls, trying to find a fingerhold that might save them. Deputy Park stood on top of the sand and tried his best to plug one of the holes from which the sand was flowing. He was fighting a losing battle. There's gotta be something, Trudy shouted. John Henry Grande had to have built a safety in case he accidentally triggered it himself. We don't have much to work off of here. The sand was up to Valentine's chest now. All I see is sand and walls and ceiling. The floor, Trudy exclaimed. There's got to be a release in the floor somewhere. How would we even check the floor? JJ yelled. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there is sand on it. Dig! With the sand up to his shoulders, Valentine dove down and displaced as much of the coarse material as he could with his hands. Holding his breath, he submerged himself in the sand, feeling around the floor with his eyes closed, running his fingers across stone bricks, feeling through the seams. When he couldn't hold his breath any longer, he fought back up to the surface. Nothing here, keep trying! He waded through the neck-deep sand to a separate portion of the room to repeat the search. Fruitless again, he came up for air. I got nothing, JJ gasped after his own search. Me neither, replied Valentine. Only inches separated those trapped in the room from the ceiling. JJ dove down again, clawing his way through dense, heavy sand to reach the bottom. Deputy Park's head had just disappeared beneath one of the growing peaks. Valentine struggled to stay above the sand, keeping his mouth breathing as he was about to kiss the ceiling. Trudy and Madame Fournier were both in the same position as he. JJ emerged from the sand. Valentine, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I brought you here. You don't deserve this. Valentine couldn't hear the rest of what JJ said. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath as the sand enveloped him. Blackness. His heart pounded in his chest, his lungs aching for oxygen. Then he heard a new sound, as if someone had pulled the stopper on a bathtub and the sand shifted beneath them. He rose up and gasped for a breath. Trudy, Madame Fournier, and JJ were doing the same. The room was draining faster than it could be filled. Within moments, the sand was back down to their necks. What happened? Asked Madame Fournier. I don't know, JJ replied, stumped. I didn't find anything down there. When the sand reached their chests, Deputy Park burst forth from underground. His chest heaved as he drew in air. I found it! I found a loose stone and I pulled it as hard as I could. JJ laughed in disbelief. I can't believe you did it, Park. Neither can I, replied the deputy, then he hacked some sand out of his lungs. The team breathed a collective sigh of relief while the room drained of sand. Before long, they were sitting against the walls on top of a thin layer of sand, waiting for their hearts to stop beating out of their chests. Valentine looked at JJ, who looked back at him. There's a funny thing that brothers have where they don't need to say words for the other to understand what they're saying. What would have gone here would have been a long conversation where JJ apologized for how he treated Valentine, admitting that his greed for the treasure had blinded him to the point where he had risked the lives of the only people he cared about in this world. Valentine would then admit that he truly cared for JJ and felt equally blinded by wanting to solve the secret of the Grand Chateau. They would acknowledge that they had to work together to get out of this situation alive, and then they'd cap it off with their secret handshake. But instead, they just nodded at each other. Then a sound came from beyond the walls. A switch flipped. On the opposite end of the room, an exit revealed itself as a stone door lifted. That's the way to the next room, said Valentine. Madame Fournier frowned. What's next, Trudy? I don't want any more surprises like the one we just experienced. Nothing, Trudy answered. Nothing? Trudy flipped to the last page and closed the cover. That was it. That's the last one. The treasure's in the next room. Give me that, the hotelier said. She snatched the manuscript from Trudy and flipped to the end, pistol still in hand. After a moment, she looked up. That is it. Well, let's get ourselves John Henry Grande's fortune. Okay, that's the end of chapter 18. Her quick movement is the true secret of the Grand Chateau. She got secret fire poles, zipping from the roof to the tunnel. I put so much ice in my coffee it tastes like water. Man. Get off my watered down coffee lawn. 72 months of sub. Thank you so much, Moocher. Yes, it's a book stream. I hope you're doing well. How I wish it was socially acceptable to tell people to stop talking when I don't like them. Yeah, I definitely just saved the game. Don't worry about that, Moocher. V yawns in the face of danger. Moving the bookmark, I guess. I would socially accept you telling people you didn't like to stop talking, Summer. Did Summer not like to stop talking, or is it people Summer doesn't like that should stop? Yeah. Is Sand the monster? I meant the disliked people should stop talking, but I suppose it works both ways because I wouldn't want to speak to them either. A mutual ceasing of conversation. If I dislike the person that talks, my brain simply filters that person away and starts wondering wonderful things instead. Hey Mark, how are you? I'm fine. Claps for chapter 18. Yep. Let me see how many chapters there are. There's 20 chapters and an epilogue. So technically 21 chapters. So we technically have 3 more to go. More than 18. There are more than 18 chapters, correct. Are you hoping to read the second book at any point? I'd like to, because I've enjoyed this one so much. So I'd probably definitely will get the second book at some point and read that one. Is it already out? Let's see. Let's see what Amazon says. Yep, it's out. It's only hardcover. They don't have a paperback. Came out last year? Oh, okay. You guys know more than me. It's already out. All right. Okay. Ready? Here's the picture. Chapter 19. John Henry Grande's Fortune. Valentine and JJ walked ahead of everyone else in hopes of being out of earshot of Madame Fournier. As the long hallway carved out of the natural rock turned a corner, they found their chance. Once she gets the treasure, she won't have any use for us, said JJ. I know, Valentine said. If we have any hope for getting out of this, we gotta start working on some plans quickly. If it comes to it, I'm gonna rush Madame Fournier. I probably won't make it, but it'll give you the space you need to overpower her and save Trudy and Deputy Park. That's weird. What? That's the first time I've heard you put someone else's needs ahead of your own. JJ shook his head. Yeah, well, don't let anyone think I'm going soft, alright? I'm hoping you won't have to rush anyone. There's still something that's bothering me, but it might be our way out. What's that? The monster at the end of the maze? The narrow hallway soon opened up, spilling out into a large domed room. JJ shined his flashlight toward the ceiling, revealing the colossal rock formation they had entered. Stalactites hung from its roof, dripping condensation down to the floor. This cave was the largest room that they had been in since they started their descent into the mountain. "What could have made this?" asked Deputy Park. "It was probably naturally formed long before John Henry Grande found it," Trudy said. "Grande probably discovered it while he was exploring the mountain and turned the pathway that led to it into his maze." "So this is the last room," said Madame Fournier, examining the stone walls. "Where's your treasure, Grande?" Madame Fournier showed her flashlight across the room. It rested upon a large wooden chest at the top of the platform. A small staircase was carved into the rock leading up to it. "There you are." A thought flashed in Valentine's mind. He had an idea. "JJ, go get the treasure." "Don't need to tell me twice." JJ moved toward the chest at the other end of the room, but was stopped in his tracks by Madame Fournier's voice. "Wait 1 second, she said. "Fine," said Valentine, "then I'll go myself." He began walking with confidence toward the raised platform. Madame Fournier hurried with her pistol drawn to position between herself and the group and the treasure. Madame Fournier hurried with her pistol drawn to position herself between the group and the treasure. Okay. Pointing the gun at Valentine, she barked, "Fall back in line, soldier!" Valentine raised his arms and clenched his teeth, maintaining eye contact with the hotelier while he backed up to the rest of the group. "You know something I don't know, don't you?" said Madame Fournier. "What makes you want to get to that treasure so badly?" "What makes you want to get to that treasure so badly?" parroted JJ in an annoying French accent. Valentine shot a glance at his brother. "Don't do this now, JJ. Why, you think I'm going to give away the secret?" To Madame Fournier, who did not possess the same sort of brother telepathy previously mentioned, this exchange fell in line with what she had previously experienced with the brothers. Useless bickering. "Trudy," she snapped, "what's going on?" Whether she simply deduced it from the brothers' language or some of that brotherly telepathic energy had rubbed off on her over the past couple days, Trudy turned impassive as well. "I don't know what you're talking about, Madame Fournier." "Back up, all of you!" said Madame Fournier, waving her pistol from person to person. "If anyone gets close to me, that's the end for them. Do you understand?" Deputy Park gulped. He saw no way out of this. He had spent the last several days away from home at the Grand Chateau and missed his wife dearly. He shivered at the thought of never seeing her face again. Madame Fournier inched backwards until her foot found the first step up to the platform. She didn't dare take her eyes off of her 4 captives at this moment. Step by step, up the cold stone, she worked her way ever closer to the treasure of John Henry Grande. Reaching the top of the step, she searched again with her foot for the base of the chest. She found the lock with her free hand. It was open. "All right, let's see what sort of treasure John Henry Grande has in store for us." She broke eye contact for a brief moment to unhinge the latch of the chest and peer at the contents inside. Her eyes darted back to Valentine. "It's empty." A thin smile formed across Valentine's lips. "What kind of game are you playing?" Madame Fournier looked back down to the chest and threw the top open, revealing its empty contents. She couldn't hear it herself, but within the treasure chest, a tumbler clicked into place. Valentine stared directly at the hotel manager, the one who had killed Wallace P. Gross, had tried to kill him and his friends, and who had forced them all through this maze at the risk of their own lives. Given the chance, he knew that she would kill them all and feel no remorse for it. "Beware the monster at the end of the maze," he said. Madame Fournier furrowed her brow in confusion. "What?" A loud, muffled boom sounded just beyond the walls, followed by another boom, followed by yet another boom, and the ground trembled beneath them. All at once, cracks formed throughout the cave, evolving into an increasingly dangerous fissure that bifurcated the room between Madame Fournier and her captives. JJ, Valentine, Trudy, and Deputy Park felt the ground crumbling beneath them. "Back up, everybody!" JJ screamed before the floor he was standing on all but disintegrated. Valentine, Trudy, and Deputy Park jumped back in step. Crumbling rocks began dislodging themselves from the ceiling of the cave. "The whole room's coming down! Get back to the hallway!" Valentine bellowed mid-dash. Madame Fournier immediately jumped into action, dashing as fast as she could towards safety. With each step, the foothold she found would almost instantaneously disappear. She dropped the pistol in a leap towards steady ground and watched it plummet into the dark chasm below. Out by the entrance to the cavern, the 4 dove for safety. The narrow hallway appeared as if it would hold. Madame Fournier kept leaping from falling rock to falling rock, dodging stalactites haphazardly falling around her. There was a version of JJ who would have enjoyed this, one who would have taken delight in the suffering of the person who tried to kill him and his friends. But this JJ was no longer that JJ. This JJ wanted Madame Fournier to receive the justice she deserved. "You're not getting away that easily," he shouted as he sprang into the cavern. "JJ, wait!" Valentine stared in shock. "It's too dangerous." JJ either didn't hear him or pretended not to. He ran at a full sprint toward Madame Fournier, uncaring of what heavy thing could be falling on top of him at any moment. Madame Fournier was fighting a losing battle. She leapt from rock to rock, but she couldn't gain ground against the cave's crumbling. The soft, cloudy light of daybreak washed in through the half-lost ceiling. She made one last desperate dive toward the stable ground before her. Her fingertips fell just inches short. JJ saw this and dove headfirst toward the newly created cavern. He slid on the rock, hooking one of his arms into whatever crumbled rock would brace him. With the other hand, he reached as far as his arms would allow, grasping at whatever he could save. He felt a snag. The room finally settled as the last pieces of the cave sloughed off into the ground, hundreds of feet below. Valentine saw his brother dangling from the ledge, unmoving. He dashed over to him. "JJ, what's wrong? Just help me with this, will ya?" Valentine grabbed JJ's shoulders and pulled backward with all his might. It was then he saw what they were pulling. Up from the chasm with his hand firmly gripped around the shoulder strap of the ornate rifle that was once meant to murder them, JJ held on to Madame Fournier. With another strong pull, they dragged her up to safety. She lay on the floor, coughing from the dust and exertion. JJ and Valentine fell to the ground themselves, out of breath and exhausted. Trudy and Deputy Park ran over. "You saved my life?" Madame Fournier stammered as she got up off her knees. JJ and Valentine were in the process of getting up themselves. "Don't," JJ huffed. "Don't mention it. I'll make sure you regret it." Madame Fournier whipped the butt of the rifle into JJ's stomach. He doubled over in pain. In one quick moment, she had the rifle against her shoulder and ready for action. "Now, which of you dies first?" She didn't even have time to hear a response. Seeing the move against JJ, Deputy Park rushed to Madame Fournier's side, and with the strength and precision of a well-trained officer of the law, he karate chopped her in the throat. Madame Fournier dropped her rifle and fell to her knees, reaching for her throat as she wheezed in air. "I was really itching to use that move," said Deputy Park. JJ, still doubled over in pain, gave a weak thumbs up to the deputy. "I owe you one, officer." He rolled onto his back, wincing. "And I want you to know how rarely I owe officers of the law one. This is a real honor for you." For the first time in days, sunlight peeked above the horizon and through the clouds of the open air of the chasm beneath them. The cave they were once in had existed at the very edge of a cliff on Grand Mountain. Whatever explosives John Henry Grande had placed years ago had shorn off the roof of the place. In the distance, visible just above the rocks behind them, was the Grand Chateau. That's the end of 19. Hi, Oscar. Poor deputy. He didn't sign up for this. Deputy Park, fearing he'd never see his wife again to relaxing Mario music, is unfortunate timing. I can't always control it. Thank you for doing shoutouts for Oscar. I haven't heard the music all this time. I hadn't noticed my AC's so loud. Thank you for shouting out Terror and Paige. Oscar do have a history of telling lies. Have a good day at work. Okay. We got two more chappers. Okay. Picture. Chapter 20. Snowplow Cometh. Driving up the road of Grand Mountain, now bathed in sunlight that was doing its slow work to melt the ice, was the ever-faithful snowplow. With its plow to the ground and salt granules being ejected from its hindquarters, it paved a welcome path all the way up to the Grand Chateau. Finally being released from their admittedly comfortable and amenable prison, patrons of the chateau cheered at the sight of the machine. Following closely behind the snowplow was a news van, the letters WHAB emblazoned on the side in red. It took the news crew mere minutes to set up lights just outside the entrance of the chateau, moving like clockwork as they fired up their Fresnel lenses and placed diffusion flags on C-stands to soften it. When that was finished, a woman in a purple blazer stepped in front of the camera. She gave herself a countdown before she spoke. "Murder and mystery on Grand Mountain," she started. "I'm here on site at the Grand Chateau, where a freak snowstorm trapped the residents of the resort over the long weekend. But more interesting than being held hostage by the weather, the weekend began with a murder. Noted mystery author Wallace P. Gross died under mysterious circumstances just as the snowstorm hit, and we're told that the real killer wouldn't have been found were it not for the efforts of 3 young adventurers." The camera pulled back and revealed JJ, Valentine, and Trudy. They hadn't had the time to clean themselves up and remained as dirty and disheveled as they were down in the caves. JJ checked the bandage on his arm to make sure it hadn't started bleeding again. "Tell me, in your own words," said the reporter, "what happened this weekend at the Grand Chateau?" JJ stepped forward and leaned into the microphone. "Thank you for taking the time to speak with us, Carly. I've been a longtime fan of your venerable news channel and the nuanced, intelligent reporting contained within." "Just answer the question, please." "Right. Well, myself, that's JJ Watts, WATTS, and the rest of the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club, Harborville's foremost authority on private investigation and paranormal phenomena. That'd be my brother Valentine Watts, and our new cohort, Trudy De La Rosa. All we need is a soundbite, kid." All right. "We were initially called up here by Wallace P. Gross himself, and while through no circumstance of our own did he meet his grisly fate, we worked together to unravel the mystery and identify the real culprit. With the help of," he sighed, "Harborville's finest, we were able to track down this culprit through a maze of subterranean passageways and eventually apprehended her." "Now, just who was the killer here, and why did she want Wallace P. Gross dead?" "Ma'am, the why is a complicated answer, but if you'd like to ask the culprit herself, she's right over there." JJ pointed to a waiting police car with its doors open. Being led out by Deputy Park in handcuffs were Madame Fournier and the groundskeeper. "Hey, Fournier," JJ taunted. "How do the cuffs fit?" Madame Fournier scowled at JJ. "You haven't seen the last of me, Ghost Hunters Adventures Club. I'll get you if it's the last thing I do." "Yeah, well, bite me," said JJ. The camera swung back to JJ. "I don't even think she's actually French. Anyway, as I was saying, we're the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club, and we'll take on any job, big or small. From haunted bar mitzvahs to haunted global conspiracies, we've got you covered. That's GHOST." The reporter stepped into frame and addressed the camera. "Thank you for speaking with us today. I'm Carly Contreras with WHAB." The cameraman lowered his camera. Carly lit a cigarette and turned to JJ. Mindfulness meditation will do wonders for you, kid." With that, the news crew packed up, leaving JJ, Trudy, and Valentine alone. They walked back into the lobby of the chateau. "That could have gone worse," said Valentine. "You didn't swear this time." "Yeah, I hope we can get at least some exposure out of it. Ghost Hunters Adventure Club Incorporated operated at a net loss this weekend." "There will be other mysteries to solve," said Trudy. "You two seem to have a knack for getting yourselves into trouble." I'll take that for the compliment that I choose to see it as," said JJ. "Are you sure you don't want to join up with us? I can't guarantee it'll be lucrative, but I can guarantee a life less ordinary." "I'm sure," she said. "With Fournier gone, the chateau is in complete disarray. They'll need someone to help whip it back into shape." "The Ghost Hunters Adventure Club!" came a familiar voice. They looked up to see Thad Newberry and Marcella P. Gross descending the grand staircase at the other end of the room. "Ah, the two lovebirds," said JJ. "About all the trouble we gave you back there?" "It's water under the bridge, I suppose," said Marcella. "I think we all got the closure that we needed out of this weekend, whether we wanted to get it or not." "So what really happened down there?" asked Thad. "Well," said Valentine, "Wallace was smart enough to point us in the direction of the treasure and had faith in us to figure out that the treasure didn't exist. John Henry Grande was driven mad by his wealth and saw it as the source of all of his unhappiness. I guess he built the cave to punish anyone who might have chased greed the way that he did." "Yep," said JJ, turning red. "I definitely knew that." "The fact of the matter," said Valentine, "is that Wallace P. Gross gave us all the clues we needed to solve this, even though he knew he was going to die. He was a remarkable man." "He will be missed," said Marcella. Some human emotion tried to appear on her face, but she managed to suppress it. Well, we're on our way out. You kids take care, okay? We will, ma'am, replied Trudy. Thad raised his eyebrows above his sunglasses. Say, would you kids maybe be interested in novelizing the events of the weekend? It could make some big waves in the young adult world. Thanks, Mr. Newberry, said JJ, but our good friend Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills takes care of that stuff for us, the handsome rogue. I see, said Thad. Well, don't hesitate to call if you need anything. And Valentine, please let me know if you've finished that first draft of Boob Quest. I'm very eager to give that a read. You got it, Mr. Newberry. Thad and Marcella walked out toward the lobby exit, hand in hand. JJ watched them go. I one day aspire to be either that venomous or that stupid. Those two have very admirable qualities about them. JJ, came a voice from across the lobby. The team turned to see Deputy Park standing by the grand staircase, beckoning JJ over. I'll be right back, guys, JJ told Valentine and Trudy. I guess I have some unfinished business. He walked over to the officer, who stood upright with his chest out as he approached. Standing before each other, they shared a stern, unwavering gaze. Deputy, said JJ. JJ, said the deputy. Park extended his hand, giving JJ a firm handshake. Good work on the case. You showed some real tenacity back there. JJ nodded curtly. Likewise, I'll fairly admit. Just never do any of that again, for your sake as well as mine. A smirk crossed JJ's face. You know I can't promise that. Deputy Park smiled. I know you can't. He punched JJ on the shoulder, walking away toward the exit of the Grand Chateau. Keep your nose clean, kid. Valentine and Trudy caught up with JJ. What was that about? Asked Trudy. Oh, nothing. Deputy Park was just super impressed by my world-class detective skills and was telling me how they'd organize a parade in my honor. It'll be a low-key affair, he says, only 2 or 3 floats. Valentine and JJ walked Trudy back to her place at the front desk. She rounded the corner and sat at her chair, addressing them as they had first seen her several days ago. I guess this is it, said Valentine. Guess so, replied Trudy. JJ leaned over the counter. And you're sure there's no way to convince you to roll with us? I could probably swing some equity options for you, if it sweetens the deal. I'm sure. My place is here at the chateau. Plus, my Lola would kill me if I quit a steady job. She'd probably ship me off to a convent in Cebu. All right, said JJ. Well, you can't say I didn't try. Valentine, do you think she's ready for the secret handshake? I think she's ready. JJ looked over at Trudy. It's actually just a big group hug. Valentine and JJ reached over the reception desk and embraced Trudy. Stay up out there. Stay up out there, said JJ, and his brother and he began walking away. Trudy waved goodbye to the two and watched them exit through the wide doors of the Grand Chateau. Sighing deeply, she looked down at her desk and all the work she had to do. She had her old job back thanks to her firing coming from a now apprehended murderer. If she kept her head down and worked hard, she'd probably make shift manager in a year. A couple more years of that, maybe a transfer or two, and she'd be a hotel manager, no doubt. And with that came benefits and a livable salary and presumably an employer-matched 401k. She could probably be a homeowner by her 30s, which for some people was a very desirable lifestyle. Different versions of her life swirled around inside her head. She saw so many paths before her she could pursue, so many potential mistakes she could learn from. These were very natural thoughts for an 18-year-old who saw their whole life before them and who also had just apprehended a cold-blooded killer after having escaped a room that was quickly filling with sand. She got up from her desk. JJ and Valentine walked away from the Grand Chateau, out toward where they had parked their kickstand-less motorcycle on its side. Pockets of snow remained on the ground, but the sun was making quick work of them. I highly doubt we're going to be able to get that motorcycle to start again, said JJ. Besides, even if we did, we're out of gas. Let's see if we can hitchhike down the mountain. I'll get down on the ground and pretend they ran me over if you want to do ride negotiations. Hey! A voice from the chateau called. JJ turned to see Trudy de la Rosa standing in the open doorway. Hey, said Valentine. She walked toward them. Look, you two are idiots in your own right, and hey, said JJ, it's normal when my brother calls me an idiot, but it feels accusatory when it's coming from you. I'm an idiot too, said Trudy. My stupid deductive reasoning can only get me so far until everyone starts thinking I'm a jerk. I don't have the clue-solving skills that you have, Valentine, and I don't have the whatever you have, JJ. She reached them at the parking lot, searching for the words she wanted to say. Separately, we're terrible sleuths, but if we work together, I think we could make at least one passable detective. JJ looked at Trudy, then over at Valentine. They stood there for a moment. Trudy tried to think of anything she could add, but decided she'd said her piece. JJ broke the silence. You coming or what? That's the end of chapter 20. JJ out here not missing the opportunity for a self-plug. True. Got her. I'm Brenda Carlton with Heights 9 News. Back to you, Jim. Oh, right. Boob Quest. Book 3 of Ghost Hunters Adventure Club should just be called Boob Quest. A Loki affair. Hi, Rifum. Alright, we have one more left. It's going to be a shorter stream, but it feels good to get a project complete. Chapter 21. Epilogue. Dear reader, rejoice, rejoice, rejoice! The prodigal son returns from 10 years of globe-trotting and gallivanting with the publication of the very book you hold in your hands. It is I, Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills, noted fiction scribe and author of such venerable page-turners such as I Loved Infinity, The Spies of the Nantes Underground, and I suppose my now infamous magnum opus, Cerberus from on high. My latest offering, Ghost Hunters Adventures Club and the Secret of the Grand Chateau, saw our unlikely heroes narrowly escape death to solve a surprising mystery with twists and turns alike. I hope you had as much fun reading it as I did writing it from an undisclosed mountain cabin that I'm renting under a pseudonym to avoid getting miseried. I'll not mince words here, dear reader. The past few years have not been kind to yours truly. From loss to more loss, to a protracted years-long mental breakdown, to recovery, to surprisingly another breakdown brought on via pharmaceutical experimentation through a Ukrainian holy man, to recovery again, I look down at my corporeal form and recognize that I'm ready to re-enter the literary world. Young adult fiction was not my first choice, as I have made clear. I much prefer my weightier tomes of yore, the intellectual scrivenings that hold up a mirror to the human condition and challenged what we once thought it meant to be. In any case, I've told my publishers time and again that I trust no one born after the Johnny Lee Miller / Angelina Jolie sci-fi opus Hackers in 1995 was released. However, with the threat of my ham-fisted loan collectors looming over my head, I've decided to dip my toes into the frigid and sometimes unkind, but usually lucrative world of flashy adventure pulp. Nevertheless, I am here to answer your no doubt burning questions. Have at me, dear reader, and I'll answer them with an open heart and wizened mind. Dear Mr. Mills, where do you get your ideas from? I'm an inspiring writer myself and would love to get as much insight into your work process as possible. Beatrice, age 12. Dear Beatrice, I'll forgive you your indiscretion just once, but let this be a warning to all naysayers, bridge trolls, and uneducated simple folk alike. It's Dr. Mills. Doctor. I didn't suffer through 8 years of university education and a desert dry thesis on the motility functions of the aquatic ragworm to be called Mr. Mills, and I will fight this in paragraphs-long diatribes until the day I die, or in the event the university strips me of my title for besmirching their name as they have several times threatened to do. Dear Mr. Mills, what influences your writing the most? Dear Dr. Mills, what influences your writing the most? Elizabeth, age 14. Dear Elizabeth, what influences me the most? What an open question. Why, it would take me years of study and volumes of belabored writing to even begin to scratch the surface of what influences me. And that's just for the academic, book-read version of your very own Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills. Decades of my life were spent wearing the hats of a street urchin, a nomadic ne'er-do-well, a riverboat scamp, a then-reformed proselytizer, and many more. I've been shanghaied, I've pitched dice with seedy boxcar jumpers, I've won and lost fortunes by wit and by luck. All of these little bright and dark moments form a patchwork quilt of existence that bleeds from my edges and onto the page. Those, my dear reader, are my influences. William Goldman's pretty good, though. Definitely try and read a lot of that guy. His works really helped me figure out structure. Dear Doctor, this is not what I expected. Dear Doctor, I was with your mom last night. Nathan, age 16. Nathan, listen here. Let me ignore the lowbrow and culturally devoid remark about my mother and focus instead on the intent with which I assume you wrote it. You intended to rile me up so that I may showcase my insecure underbelly built from a direct fear of non-acceptance. Allow me to assure you that the most prominent writers have built a skin thicker than the skull in which your half-formed brain resides. Luckily for you, I'm not most writers. Unluckily for you, I will not forget this transgression. I will now dedicate my life and my resources to finding you, destroying you, and making you regret the day you were born on this earth. My dear Nathan, the retribution will be biblical. And with that, I have been informed by my editors that I am not allowed to openly threaten children, so I would like to retract the preceding paragraph and half-heartedly apologize to Nathan and whatever late-model dime store apparatus he keeps between his ears. Hi, Dr. Mills. Do you have any daily rituals that help you be creative? I've tried taking cold showers recently, and I found they make me more energized throughout the day. Samantha, age 20. Dear Samantha, my daily rituals will vary, especially per project, and even more especially as I grow older. However, here is a close rundown of my day-to-day as I was tapping out the manuscript to this very book. 8 a.m. Wake up, decide that the day didn't deserve me yet. 9 a.m. Actually wake up, take shower, temperature of shower undisclosed. 10 a.m. Breakfast at local diner, I order the usual. 11 a.m. Begin writing. 12 p.m. Doubt my abilities as a writer. Begin crying. Call my brother and ask him for validation. He's crying too. I ask him what about. His marriage is falling apart. He doesn't know if he can be the father to his kids that he knows he should be. We're both crying together now, trying to work through years and years of repressed guilt and regret. We know that we can make it out of this alive. 1 p.m. Back to writing. 6 p.m. Finish day's writing. I forgot to eat lunch again with all the crying. I walk to the corner store and order a sandwich. Marcelo's back at the counter. He looks tired. He doesn't know if the shop is going to make it through the winter. I put a hand on his shoulder, knowing it must have been hard for him to share this with me. 7 p.m. I organize my notes for the next day, promising myself that I won't succumb to the darkness. Not today, not ever. 8 p.m. Piano practice. 11 p.m. Bedtime. The ghosts of my past will haunt me, yes, but we're old friends now. I greet them warmly. Dear Dr. Mills, my father worked at Bradford and Bradford. The colossal failure of Cerberus from on high and the shuttering of Bradford and Bradford went on to ruin his career in book publishing and forced myself and my family to drastically change our metropolitan lifestyle in utter disgrace, moving to rural America to farm cash crops for well-to-do heritage brand brunch restaurants. In the years we've managed to scrape by, sure, but I know my father dwells upon his failures at every waking moment of his life, and that every day when I'm harvesting kale and Brussels sprouts for 20-something hipsters to eat while discussing their mundane problems, I'm cursing your name. There are real people who suffer because of your antics, real lives ruined by your unscrupulous business dealings. I hope you choke. Justin, age 17. Dear Justin, against my lawyer's wishes, I've decided to answer this letter. I knew Gary well. He was an honest man, more honest than either of those Bradford rats. While I continue to suffer from my own personal demons with the failed publication of Cerberus from on high and the subsequent warehouse fire that destroyed every no copy of the book, I will say that I am no more your father's master than you are. His fate is his alone, and he must embark on his own journey to take back what life has cruelly wrested from his hands. Still, though, I understand that my response may not sate your taste buds, which no doubt thirst for blood, so I will offer you this. Upon your 18th birthday, you may request my personal address from your father. It's the same one he's always had on file. I will permit you to challenge me to life or death combat, with one weapon of your choosing unrestricted. May I warn you, however, that while my bones have brittled in these later years, my mind remains sharp and plastic. I will not be an easy foe. I eagerly await your calling. Hi, Doctor. What do you think about relationshiping or shipping of your characters? In fandom communities, fans will usually imagine which characters might end up in romantic relationships with one another. Arguments can sometimes be heated, especially among the more hardcore supporters, so I'm curious if you have any preferred ships for your characters, or if you plan on interjecting romance into your Ghost Hunters Adventure Club novels. Annie, age 15. Annie, let me tell you this right now and have it be clear as possible so that one day you'll look back on this response to your letter and know more than you did back then. It doesn't matter. Moreover, nothing matters. And one day when everything turns to ash, whether around you or within you as it has to me, as it will for everyone one day in their lives, you'll wonder why you didn't spend more time being kinder to those around you. You'll think about all those petty arguments you had and all of those cheap cigarettes you used to smoke and about your unending, unsatiable hunger to be liked and what you did to get that validation. You'll no doubt see that your heart held cruelty in its darkest and most vile form, metastasizing outward from your heart. Is it too late? You'll ask yourself. Is it too late to wake up in the morning and change and be better and do better and let kindness and love be the grounding principles of your life? Maybe. I'm not the one to decide that. Hi, doctor. What does the HH in your name stand for? I've always been curious and can't seem to find the answer anywhere. James, age 14. James, it sounds for how about you mind your own business? Please send all questions, comments, concerns, and gifts of high monetary value on the secondary market to P.O. Box 1271, Glendale, California, 91209, care of Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills. That's it. That's the book. I noticed the music stopped. I appreciate his answering Beatrice's question. Such a mature reaction. Yeah. Just in time for the end of the epilogue, Coco. Hi, Coco. Who finishes writing at 6 p.m.? Thank you for shouting out, Coco. Fictional published authors, apparently. The darkness, you say. Okay, I'll be on audio only while I drive to my appointment. Drive safely. Claps for chapter 21/epilogue book end stream. Thank you. My type of sarcasm. Hi, Coley. How doing? All right, guys. I know that's a shorter stream than normal, but we finished. We finished this book. Happy Wednesday to you as well. I really enjoyed that. So I hope you guys did too. And with that, I'm going to call it for the day and I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my quieter day. That came in time to see your dear doctor. I was with your mom last night. That's funny. What a great time to come in. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Please take care of yourselves. I probably won't be able to stream again this week as I have work the rest of the week and I have to go upstate, up the coast to Myrtle Beach for work this weekend. So yeah, I really won't. I'll have a busy days ahead. But you're welcome for stream. Thank you all for being here and popping in. I hope you all have wonderful rest of the days. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all soon. Much love. Bye-bye.